This is an article that came out March 6, 2019 in Slate. Many are calling Trump's trade war a failure. Since he started this trade war, the deficit has surged up to a 10-year high. So it's causing more harm than good. But let's get into this article, y'all. So far, Donald Trump's trade war is an utter failure. Donald Trump has waged a trade war unlike any other United States, anybody that was president. Nobody has ever done this before. And, after watching Trump, you can see why they don't do it. He's causing more harm than good. So, all right, so nobody has ever done this as president since the 1930s, upsetting our global allies and panicking markets, as Trump has with slapping everybody with these tariffs, especially China. He's slapped, I would say, countless tariffs on them in steel and other Chinese products. And by just about any measure you pick, his efforts appears to have been an absolute flop. Consider the trade deficit, which Trump has promised to shrink. It has increased, y'all. On Thursday, the Commerce Department reported that it actually grew by $68.8 billion in 2018, reaching $621 billion as imports continue to outpace exports. So he's made it worse. In December, the monthly gap hit a 10-year high. The timing of the announcement was almost poetic. It came just over a year after Trump tweeted that trade wars are good and easy to win. And he is learning they are not. I thought the people that elected Trump said he was a good businessman. He was a businessman. That's why he would be a good president. That's not panning out at all. Because the president is obsessed with manufacturing jobs, the White House liked to focus on the trade deficit in goods alone, ignoring the contributions of services like finance and education. But on that score, its performance looked even worse. The goods gap soared to an all-time high of $891.3 billion last year. It grew with China. It grew with Mexico. It grew with Canada. So not only did Trump explode the trade deficit, he also made it worse for other countries and increased their deficits too. Wow. Like Willie Coyote with a box of Acme dynamite, Trump has tried to blow up the global trade order and instead came out looking like a used matchstick. Hey, y'all, Trump has a high IQ, and so does all of his supporters. Anybody in a MAGA hat got a high IQ, y'all. And when I say high IQ, I don't mean anything good. Why is the trade deficit widening? Part of the story likely has to do with the federal budget deficit, which has surged thanks to the tax cut Republicans passed in 2017. Oh my God, they're putting the country in all. Man, everything these people touch turns to dirt. It turns to dirt. Oh my God. The Republicans actually made things worse, and so did Trump. They added on more debt. As the old saying goes, trade deficits occur when countries spend more than they produce. So, all else equal, when the government borrows money from overseas to finance its red ink, you can expect Americans to buy more imports. Higher deficits can also lead to higher interest rates, which push up the value of the dollar and hurt the competitiveness of American exports. When the tax bill passed, many economists predict that it would exacerbate the trade gap and undermine Trump's central economic promise to blue collar voters. In other words, we're witnessing an entire foreseeable own goal. The more you drill down into the stats, the more embarrassing they seem for Trump. Trump is a businessman, y'all. He's a businessman with a high IQ. He said it himself. He said his IQ is very high and he was very intelligent and he was a good student. And his people run around every day all over this country talking about their high IQ. Every day. Every day they want to come to our comment section and talk about their high IQ. Trump is a good example of that high IQ. Remember, this man represents the whole country, the whole thing. Take the results of our tit for tat tariff skirmish with China, which the White House has hoped would force Beijing to negotiate better trade terms. The White House placed levies on 250 billion of Chinese goods. China responded with tariffs in $110 billion of Americans' goods, including politically sensitive commodities like soybeans. This is why the farmers were suffering, because they could not move their soybeans and they ultimately lost everything. These are the high IQ farmers, y'all, not the black farmers, the high IQ farmers. They're the ones that I did videos on the stories. They lost everything because of this trade war that was going on that Trump kicked off. So the White House placed levies of $250 billion of Chinese goods. The result, our imports from the People's Republic rose last year and our exports to it fell. So America, behind this trade war, lost billions of dollars, y'all. This happened in part because China allowed its currency to depreciate against the dollar, which canceled out some of the impact of Trump's tariffs. Another entirely predictable outcome. So China got hit, but not quite as bad because they knew what to do. And apparently Trump don't. Meanwhile, the administration has been forced to spend billions bailing out farmers. These are farmers, ladies and gentlemen, that lost their entire crop or grew soybeans and they ended up losing everything because of the trade war. They couldn't trade those soybeans with China. So look like Trump's trade war is a lose-win situation. The win for China, the lose for the US. As the data has streamed in, economists have begun to conclude that the trade war is also weighing on the broader US economy. The harm is not large, but it is notable. One study by researchers at the Federal Reserve and Columbia University concluded that each month the tariffs cost Americans $3 billion in extra taxes and $1.4 billion in lost economic efficiency. Trump's trade war was a bust, y'all. And you know what? To add insult to injury, just a few days ago, he slapped more tariffs on China. The other by a team including World Bank chief economist Pinelope Goldberg estimates that the U.S. economy took a $7.8 billion loss in 2018. Companies and consumers face almost $69 billion in higher costs from the tariffs. So his tariffs are actually forcing American people to spend more money. Yes, that high IQ is shining through, y'all. Is shining through. But those were canceled out by some tariff revenues and the fact that domestic companies were able to raise their own prices. So we are paying higher prices because of Trump's trade war. Y'all. The two papers also undercut one of Trump's favorite talking points on trade. The president frequently likes to say that tariffs are taxes on countries that sell goods to the US. His critics usually retort that no, they're actually taxes on American businesses and consumers. In theory, either could turn out to be true. US companies might have chosen to pay the tariffs themselves and pass the expense on to their customers. So no matter what, we gonna pay more money, y'all. Or they might have demanded that Chinese suppliers or foreign steel factories lower their prices, forcing them to effectively bear the burden of the levies. In practice, it turns out that Trump was wrong and his critics were right. Both research teams found that American businesses paid the full cost of the tariffs and likely charged consumers more as a result, just like the naysayers expected. This man makes a mess out of everything. Why don't you Trump supporters read up on what happened with his casino in New Jersey that he closed in 2016 just before his campaign? Go see what a good businessman he was. You know, the problem with these people, they just get so worked up over what Trump says, but they don't go research what kind of businessman he is. Why don't you look at the lawsuits on Trump up in New York? Trump has been slapped with many lawsuits. Go look at how he ran the University of Trump. And that doesn't even come out of his mouth anymore. Go look at what a mess he made of that, and people sued to get their money back. He didn't deliver on Trump University, and he tried to keep everybody's money. And the state of New York had to get involved over the Trump University. I'm just saying. We haven't exactly gotten the spectacular new trade deals Trump promised during his campaign either. The administration hoped that threatening our trade partners with tariffs would force them to negotiate new pacts that gave the US a leg up in global commerce. Well, it's done the opposite. But the results have been underwhelming. The new and sort of improved NAFTA make some important changes around the edges of the agreement, including key ones to international dispute settlement, but is widely regarded as little more than a rebranding effort. This is definitely the snake oil salesman here that we got in the White House, y'all. Definitely that. The agreement shaping up between China and the US is looking like even more of a disappointment. In return for lowering tariffs, China would buy more US agriculture good and lower some barriers that keep US companies from operating there. It would do nothing regarding issues like intellectual property theft that are much of greater concern to US corporations. Trump started an unprecedented trade war, and all we're going to get are some lousy soybean sales. He made a mess of things, y'all. He made a mess in North Korea. He's made a mess on this trade war, this alleged trade war. He must have declared this trade war on the American people because we're paying more for it than anyone else. This is what, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say this. This came out of the mind of a high IQ person. And look at how it turned out. That's all I have to say. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. And I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.